Years before Donald Trump or Alan Sugar made the phrase famous, Vince McMahon was yelling, "You're fired!" on an almost weekly basis. The chairman's catchphrase got seriously over as Vince handed out kayfabe pink slips with an evil glee. Unfortunately though, it wasn't just on screen that he did this. McMahon has fired many people in his life, and he let the following 10 performers go without a moment's hesitation. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WWE wrestlers Vince McMahon fired on the spot. Join us. Number 10, Serena Deeb. Before she was a champion in the NWA or the Professor in AEW, Serena Deeb was a member of a cult. Serena, no last name, was part of CM Punk's Straight Edge Society in 2010. Alongside Luke Gallows and Joey Mercury, she was converted by Punk to follow in his no-drinking, no-drug-taking ways as the group attempted to assert their dominance on SmackDown. Emphasis on the word attempted there. Much like the group itself, Serena's potential was squandered during this storyline, and her underwhelming firing from WWE reflected that. She was let go from her contract after being spotted out drinking and partying with her friends, which was not in line with her character's straight edge values. Guys, you do realise wrestling isn't real, right? What, did you expect Edge and Christian to drink blood whilst they were in the Brood? Or Duke Drosy to actually collect people's garbage? Anyway, Deeb was released and the entire stable collapsed quickly thereafter. And all because she had the nerve to enjoy herself when she was off the clock. How dare she? Number 9, Dawn Marie. Getting her start managing Lance Storm in ECW, Dawn Marie is probably best known to wrestling fans as the woman who bonked Al Wilson to death in 2003. You probably remember it because A, it's hilarious, and B, that feud with Tori dragged on for ages. Dawn was fired from WWE in 2005, shortly after reuniting with Storm to manage him at ECW One Night Stand. So why was she let go? Did she hit somebody with a flaming barbed wire bat? Did she impale another wrestler on a bed of nails? Did she rip someone's head clean off? No, she got pregnant. Almost instantly after learning that Dawn Marie was with child, WWE cut bait. I'm sure you can put yourself into the twisted mind of Vince McMahon to understand why he thought a pregnant Dawn would be useless to his business, but we wouldn't recommend doing that if you ever want to look yourself in the mirror again. As you can imagine, this caused Dawn unimaginable stress, and she ended up taking the company to court over it. The two parties reached a settlement in 2007, and Dawn Marie has been persona non grata ever since. Number 8, Finlay. We all know that Fit Finlay loves to fight, but did you know he also loves to get in massive trouble backstage over incidents at house shows? Well, now you do. After retiring from the ring, the Belfast Brawler took up a job as an agent. This gave him more say in what happened in front of a crowd, but also meant increased responsibility if things went wrong. At a 2011 live event, Finlay greenlit a segment in which The Miz would interrupt the US national anthem. He thought this was a good idea, as Miz was WWE champion at the time and needed some heat heading into his WrestleMania 27 main event. However, he forgot the golden rule of America: never mess with anything even remotely patriotic. People got very upset, including several members of the National Guard who were in attendance that night. Finlay was blamed for the faux pas and was fired shortly thereafter. He was eventually rehired by WWE, but only after he learnt the entire Pledge of Allegiance backwards and got a tattoo of George Washington on his left butt cheek. God bless America. Number 7, Emma. The former Tennille Dashwood must hold the record for the quickest firing and rehiring in WWE history, which all stemmed from a simple misunderstanding that took place in 2014. Whilst doing some shopping at Walmart, Emma was using a self-service checkout when she accidentally forgot to scan an iPad case worth just over $20. This led to the Australian getting arrested and having to appear at a local community court the following day. Believing that one of their independent contractors was a shoplifter, WWE decided that this was bad publicity and released Emma from her contract. Over a $20 iPad case. Are you serious? Naturally, this decision got the internet very riled up, which doesn't take much to be fair. After a few hours of being bombarded online, the company relented and Emma was reinstated. For her simple, honest mistake, the wrestler had to attend an online course, do a day's community service, and almost lost her job. Well, actually, I guess she did for a bit. Should have just distracted the police by dancing and then made a run for it. Number 6, Brad Maddox. Former Raw General Manager manager Brad Maddox had one of the most infamous debuts in WWE history, as well as one of the most infamous firings. His first major appearance was as the crooked referee for CM Punk and Ryback's Hell in a Cell match at the 2012 pay-per-view. He then proceeded to get the tar kicked out of him by more famous wrestlers before moving into a mostly non-wrestling role on TV. Maddox continued to perform in dark matches though, including one for the November 24th, 2015 edition of Main Event. Ahead of battling R-Truth, Brad cut a promo on the crowd in which he called them cocky pricks. As a result of this spicy language, Brad was sent packing from WWE, never to return. He wrestled one match on the Indies in 2016 and hasn't come back to the ring since. What he said was a bit stronger than the company's normal output, granted, but it's not like Maddox was cursing up a storm on TV or anything. To make things worse, Vince McMahon then went on Raw a few months later and said that he was going to give Shane an effing beating. Did he get fired? Like bollocks, did he? Number 5, Gangrel. Despite being extremely popular in the Attitude Era and having some absolutely banging theme music, Gangrel never won a single championship during his time with WWE. Not even the hardcore title for like 5 minutes. This hasn't got anything to do with what we're talking about, I just think it's weird. Now, where was I? After the Brood came to an end in 1999, Gangrel lost direction and floated around the mid-card until 2001. The Vampire also hurt his leg, which caused him to gain weight. During a match where his shirt got ripped off, Vince McMahon was apparently disgusted by Gangrel's physique, and this is allegedly what led to him getting let go from the company. McMahon's preference for large muscular men is famous, but it's not like everyone who walked through his door was an Adonis. I mean, he made Yokozuna WWE champion twice, for goodness sake. Despite his acrimonious firing, Gangrel did return to WWE in 2004 as one of JBL's henchmen. Presumably this was after a promise to Vince that he would only drink diet plasma from now on. Number 4, Nailz. Let me tell you about one of the few men to ever dare put his hands on Vince McMahon outside of a wrestling ring. Nailz debuted for WWE in 1992, playing an ex-convict who alleged that he had been abused by the Big Boss Man whilst in jail. Despite By at this point in his career having the athleticism of a tree that had been recently struck by lightning, the giant man was pushed relatively strongly, getting featured matches at SummerSlam and Survivor Series. This all changed in December when Nailz confronted McMahon over a financial dispute. Bret Hart spoke about this night in his book, claiming that he could hear clashes from down the hall as the behemoth choked McMahon in his own office. As well as a series of lawsuits between the two parties, this led to Nailz being shown the door. I mean, of course it did. He literally attacked his boss. Hey, maybe if he had driven a truck to Vince's office and sprayed him with beer instead, he'd have been alright. Number 3, Daniel Bryan. Do I have to talk about the Nexus? You know that every time I do, I start crying and come out in that weird rash? Oh, fine. Wade Barrett and the rest of the rookies from the first season of NXT made their presence known on the main roster during the June 7th, 2010 edition of Raw. All 8 men lay waste to the ring, attacking wrestlers, commentators, and even ring announcer Justin Roberts. Not the Dapper Yapper! It was this assault that ended up costing one Nexus member his job. Daniel Bryan choked Roberts out with his own tie, which was considered too violent for WWE's PG product. Claiming that they had sponsors to answer to, WWE instantly let Bryan go. Of course, it all worked out fine in the end, as D-Bry was brought back in time to join John Cena's team to face the Nexus at SummerSlam. To be honest, leaving the group was probably one of the best things that ever happened to him professionally, as the once promising act quickly crashed and burned after a string of maddening booking decisions. Now where's that E45 cream? I feel the tears coming on. Number 2, The Ultimate Warrior. SummerSlam 1991 hosted 2 huge spectacles. One was the match made in heaven, the on-screen wedding of Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. Let's just brush over the fact that they would get divorced in real life the next year, shall we? The other was the match made in hell, a 3-on-2 handicap match pitting a pair of American heroes against some dastardly foreign heels. Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa were set to square off against WWE Champion Hulk Hogan and former champ The Ultimate Warrior. Fans were thrilled to see the 2 good guys win, not knowing that one of them was about to get cut. Warrior had allegedly threatened to no-show if he was not paid a large sum of money for appearing at WrestleMania 7. Vince coughed up, but then gave Warrior his marching orders immediately after the match was done. This is one of those stories in wrestling where nobody really knows the complete truth. There are multiple accounts of who asked for what, but the end result was the same. Warrior was gone. Well, for about 8 months at least. There was no way WWE were going to miss out on that sweet, sweet wrestling buddy money. Number 1, Jeff Jarrett. He might have let people go for accidentally stealing iPad cases and being out of shape, but at least Vince McMahon never fired anyone for real on live TV. Until now. March 26, 2001 was a historic night for pro wrestling. Now owned by McMahon, WCW was broadcasting the final episode of Nitro as part of a simulcast with WWE's Raw. This meant that Vinnie Mac cropped up numerous times across both shows, and he had some very choice words for the chosen one, Jeff Jarrett. After watching him backstage on a monitor, McMahon stated that Jarrett's contract wasn't going to be picked up as part of the buyout. Or, in his words, he was capital G, O-O-N-N-E, gone. Many have speculated that this rough exit was down to Jarrett allegedly holding Vince up for money in 1999, but whatever the reason, this was absolutely brutal. Of course, the funny thing about it was that Vince couldn't actually fire Double J since he had a guaranteed contract with AOL Time Warner. Fortunately, years later, Jarrett did manage to mend fences and return to WWE, which included a Hall of Fame induction in 2018. Fire that, slapnuts!